Oh, how's the new kitty cat?
Oh, he's adorable. So we got this kitten 1 week ago.
Mm-hmm.
One, the kids have already started asking for a dog.
Of course.
We're like, can you just have some satisfaction in what we've provided so
Nope.
far? So he is very small, ears bigger than his head, getting along great with Pancake, the older kitten, who is less than a year old, and she walks around like an 80-year-old now.
Yes.
So the kids instantly are like, oh, we're going to call him Waffles because of the Pancake.
Yes.
Right. And I have put out there in the universe, I'm kind of doing The Secret, but with cats.
Yes.
So I put out in the universe that I would like to call him Warren Oates.
Okay.
And I want to do that in honor of the actor.
Yes.
Warren Oates.
Yes.
I just want to be able to say, oh, our cat's named after Warren Oates. And they'd say, oh, what'd you name him? And you, Warren Oates. Like,
right.
What else would you name him?
Right.
So, but like he comes bounding into the room looking around for something new to be adorable in. And it's a constant search for him to find new things to be precious and wonderful, based on the novel Push by Sapphire. And
yes.
I've started calling him Warren.
Okay.
And the rest of the family's gotten in on it. They'll be like, oh, Warren. Oh, Warren's here. They'll still throw out a Waffles. I want, when we go to the vet, I told you this, there's a whiteboard at the vet's office where they write the name of all the animals. Yes. And I just wanted to say, welcome, Warren Oates. And he starred in my favorite Drunk in Mexico with a hooker and a severed head in a pillowcase movie.
Then that's how it should be.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
So let's say you're brand new, you see, oh, hey, they talk to a talking head. And they like clicked on it and they were like, is it? Oh, it's not Jerry Harrison. Right. Fine, I'll listen anyway. Right? Harris heads? What do they call themselves?
Harris Sons.
That's the awesome. Jerry Harrison fan club. So the people from the Jerry Harrison fan club come over to our show thinking maybe he snuck off and talked to us. And then they're like, oh, it's Chris Frantz. But, there are 4 people they could have talked to. And
still pretty cool.
Right. They're buddies still. They still talk to each other. And so someone like that comes over to the show and they say, what exactly? This is interesting. They've asked some questions that I have not heard anybody ask Chris Frantz about before, for better or for worse. And they say, well, what else am I? Let me say I give these folks a follow, right?
Right.
And they go down the list of other people we will have on. I mean, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back because we're in 2 different states, but we have good guests.
We do.
If you go down the list, you'll be like, oh, they have a nudist, they have a streaker, they have stunt women, they have hair collectors, Quidditch players. Right? Picasso. We talked to Picasso.
All the way from
swimming.
Johannesburg.
Olympian.
Yes. We've had multiple Olympians on this show. What
That's
do we gotta
true.
Do?
Multiple Olympians.
Greg Louganis? I would totally talk to Greg Louganis, by the way.
Oh, please. Yeah, if he's available, let's get him on. Oh. What's he up to nowadays?
I don't know, but I
hanging out
him when I was in college, actually.
Was he in the surreal? Really? Was he on the Surreal Life with our pal Tawny?
I don't think so. Was he? No, he wasn't. Because I think he was with, what was that guy's name? Ted Casablanca back then? Back when Ted Casablanca was big on E. I don't think he was on
yeah. I have not thought about that name in forever. Right? Yeah, that's not his husband, so I'll bring that up.
Johnny Shalhoub. Oh, he's cute.
Wait a second.
Cute. They're cute.
Wait a second. We are burying the lead here.
What?
After retiring from diving, Louganis began to compete in dog agility competitions.
We got to talk to Greg Louganis after we talk to the Grubers.
Also, he is a self-described huge Harry Potter fan. My God, yes.
And he's still adorable.
Right.
Yeah, we got to talk to him. And I could tell him I interviewed him back in 1990.
Yeah, okay.
Did I interview him, maybe, or did you or Sue? Who interviewed Greg Louganis when he came to OU? It wasn't me. I think it might have been me. Maybe it was Sue. I think it was me. I feel like I would have kept that for myself.
Okay, this is not really.
I kept this is not helping. Sweet. He won't forget. He won't remember. If I say I interviewed him, he'll at least be like, "Oh, okay." Oh my God, there's a whole section about his dog. Look at his dogs. Dr. Zhivago, Schivago. Captain Wolf Blitzer.
Yeah.
Nipper and Son Dobby.
I mean, he's got to think. Yeah.
Griff of Gryffindor. Hedwig is a Hungarian Puli. Nipper.
Yeah.
Griff, Dobby, and Hedwig.
Mm-hmm. Don't know what that. Yeah.
I don't know, but he became
she needs to stay out of it.
competitive dog agility.
She needs to stay out of it. This is not the Rachel and honorary Rachel show. This is our show.
No, that's Jamie. It's Jamie.
Honorary Rachel. Right. Okay.
How much of your success as a drummer and as a musician do you credit to the fact that you were sleeping with your bassist? And do you think Kiss could have been even bigger if Gene Simmons and Peter Criss had a good cuddle every once in a while?
Ooh.
I know.
We can take it in sections.
I remember when Gene Simmons and there's a place called the Lower Manhattan Ocean Club that Talking Heads played a few times. It was owned by Mickey Ruskin, who had been the owner of Max's Kansas City, the original owner, and he'd had a few other places. But anyway, the Lower Manhattan Ocean Club was kind of chic, very hip, and bands would play there. Like I saw Lou Reed play there with John Cale, and they invited David Byrne to play guitar, and Patti Smith came up and sang, and it was that kind of scene. And we played there. And one time when we were playing there, these two big guys, real big guys in tuxedos came into the room, and nobody knew who the hell they were. Like, who are these big guys in tuxedos? Turns out it was Paul and Gene from Kiss. And I think they just didn't get it because they left right away. I guess maybe people didn't make them feel welcome or something.
Yeah.
A little different crowd from their usual.
Yeah. But I credit a lot. I credit Tina Weymouth with a lot of importance in my life, both cuddling wise and also intellectually. She's super smart, you know. So to answer your question, I think she enhanced my performing considerably.
Well, and that, I mean, it resonates so well in the book. I mean, just your connection from day one, and then everything you've done throughout your career. It's just incredible. And it's as much I don't know, telling your incredible story, but the tribute to her and everything you say about her is just phenomenal. It's sort of the things we always believed about all of you. And then we see it on the page, and it's so crystal clear that it's exactly what we thought in such a good way.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you thought that way.
Yes. And we also were talking earlier about, oh my gosh, what is it like to have everyone fall in love with Tina? Because throughout the book, every 2 seconds it's, well, and of course this person was in love with Tina, and of course this person only wanted to talk to Tina, and of course this person only wanted Tina.
Yeah. I was fine with that. I had any problem with that.
Certainly seemed that way.
But you know, particularly after we were married, I felt pretty secure in the fact that my relationship with her was solid. Maybe a little. I might have been jealous once or twice before we tied the knot, you know. Here's the there. But Tina was super attractive, and people like Dee Dee Ramone and Richard Hell and other people, you know, they kind of made a beeline for her when they saw her.
It's like, she's mine.
Yeah.
But you were this incredible dynamic duo, with both so talented, and you've done incredible things. And so it's fun that we get a little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, well, I tried to, you know, when I started to write the book, I thought, I knew that people wanted to know about Talking Heads. Obviously, that was one reason I got a book published, and I'm completely mindful of that. But when I was writing it, I thought, what's the tone of this going to be? Like, the last thing I want to do is like write some whiny drummer book about beating up on the lead singer because he got more attention than I did. But I figured out very early on when I started to write that really this book, the hero of this book is Tina Weymouth, because she came to the rescue. I mean, David and I were in New York, were just floundering really for the first few months until she walked into the room with a bass guitar. Mind you, as you will read in the book, I've been working on her for a long time, you know, sort of gently twisting her arm maybe a little bit, but
one of the things
play bass, because I thought I knew her well at that point, and I not as well as I know her now, but I knew that she had a keen aesthetic in her mind when it came to music and art. I mean, let's just say that music and art go hand in hand, and they the same thing that makes you want to make a painting it's the same impulse that makes you want to write a song. So knowing that, I thought Tina shares this aesthetic that she appreciates what David and I are going for, or trying to go for, attempting to go for. And not only that, she has a great sense of rhythm, which I knew from dancing with her, because we would go to discotheques and we would go to the student bar and parties, and Tina was a great dancer. So I thought, she really can feel the beat. And one thing led to another, and finally she was persuaded somehow that it was a good idea. I think it was mostly seeing David and I in New York, like struggling to get our thing together. And I think she eventually thought, well, maybe I can help these guys.
One thing you always, sort of looking back at bands, it's always they floundered in obscurity for so long, and then something happened, and they, with you guys playing CBGBs, and suddenly sort of, how early into the process did the three of you say, oh, this is something different. This is not like other bands. This is clicking in a way that doesn't always happen with people.
Very early on. I mean, I already knew it with David from our little band we had when we were at the Rhode Island School of Design, called the Artistics, and we were mostly playing covers, but it was for that band that or during the existence of that band that we wrote Psycho Killer and Warning Sign and certain other songs that never got recorded. But I think we felt it very early on that this was a particular chemistry that was, say, different than a lot of other rock and roll bands. We also kind of went about it on purpose, because we thought we're never going to beat the Rolling Stones or the Who at their game. They've already got that thing covered. we're not gonna be able to take them on. Elvis Presley, I don't think so. We can't. But we could do something different. We could do, and so that was our plan, and therefore our appearance was different. The songs were a lot more sparse and less kind of heavy than a lot of the other bands from our time, and the subject matter of the songs, like "Don't Worry About the Government," for example. Nobody was writing shit like that. To answer your question, I think we felt it, but we also kind of engineered it that way, that we should be a different type of thing.
One of the other things that I thought was interesting, and it kind of goes throughout the book, is this idea of music as a collaboration. And it seems like you and the rest of Talking Heads, but it obviously extends beyond that, as musicians, you don't have a fear of other musicians. Maybe a fear of music, but not other musicians. And even reading the whole chapter about you going down to Nassau and working on more songs about buildings and food, hanging out with all these musicians and Chris Blackwell and Peanuts Taylor, who is a friend of my mom. And I was like, oh my God, like,
really?
He knows you guys. Yes. I had his record hanging in my kitchen in my first apartment for years.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But can you talk a little bit about that, the nature of collaboration that seems to go through all of your music in a way that it doesn't always seem to happen with other musicians?
Well, I only know music as a collaborator. I've never, being a drummer, I've never done a solo album of drums.
There's time.
Yeah.
Peanuts did.
Yeah, exactly.
But I only know it as a collaborator, so that's where I kind of come from. I think of myself as a good collaborator. Like I have a good work ethic, but I also am a good listener, so I can hear when somebody has a good idea that might be better than the idea I had for the same thing. So I think that's what collaboration is all about, is having ideas, but also being able to accept other people's ideas, particularly when they're better than your own. I'm very proud of the work we did with Talking Heads, and one thing I did not want to do with this book is to in any way queer our reputation, because I think it's so great that the songs we did together still today sound good, and the younger people seem to be getting it. They like it, and I get a lot of, on my Facebook page, I get well, not less and less from the younger people, because they're going away from Facebook now, but people show appreciation, who weren't even alive back in those days. So
Right.
so I think that's pretty cool, pretty great.
And it's something else that runs through the book is, there's that old saying where on the third record you always hear a band's like the band's record collection. It's no longer we've been crafting these songs for years. This is suddenly we have to come up with something. And I feel like from the beginning, a lot of your music is very much put together of all the people whose paths you crossed. And you talk about it in the book. And it's such a insane assortment of people. Everybody from John Cage to go seeing him perform to living above Wiley Dufresne's parents' sandwich shop in Providence. It's just this sort of like, of course, all these things go together. And I wouldn't have pictured it, but it makes complete sense.
Well, yeah. I mean, we had a lot of interesting influences and people who came in and out of our lives. I mean, our upstairs neighbor was at our loft in Long Island City, our second loft in New York, where where we recorded that famous third album, Fear of Music. Our upstairs neighbor was Don Cherry, the jazz.
Of course it was. Makes perfect sense.
And his kids, Nena and Eagle Eye. And I always thought, Eagle Eye, is that a real name? Sure enough, that's his on his birth certificate.
Yeah.
But
we gotta get better neighbors, Luke.
Yeah, I really do.
We both do.
And Ernie Brooks from the Modern Lovers was also in our building, and the bass player of the Modern Lovers, and he had a band where Arthur Russell was a member of the band, and their rehearsals used to drive us crazy.
Of course, yeah.
But ours drove them crazy too. We had a rule in that building: no loud music before noon or after midnight. So that gave everybody 12 hours to get it on.
It's fair. It's a good rule. I mean, you've done, obviously, Tom Club, so many things beyond just Talking Heads, which it's terrible to say just Talking Heads, because obviously incredible all the way around. Of all of these things, all these incredible stories and moments, what stands out as, if you could only have told one story, what would it have been?
Well, if I could only have told one story, it would be the day Tina Weymouth came riding down the street on a bicycle, and I saw her for the first time. That was a big day for me. But I guess another one would be the first time we performed in Paris, opening for the Ramones, and it was at the famous theater called the Bataclan, Le Bataclan, and it's a very famous theater. It had been well over 100 years old, and one of the first people to perform there was Colette, but they also had like Wild Bill Hickok performed, like all kinds of stuff, and the Velvet Underground, and so performing there, it was my first time ever in Paris, and the audience loved us. They were like stomping their feet before we even hit the stage, and we didn't even have an album out yet. So it was a very warm and exciting welcome that we got there, and there was something about the Parisians, people from Paris, that they're very left brain. The left brain and the right brain. Hopefully both are working, but
right.
the left brain is the more intellectual side, and the more literary side, the more musical side, and we felt that the French people really got what Talking Heads was all about right away. I mean, immediately. They didn't have to get used to it or anything. And we got a couple of encores that night, and then handed the stage over to the Ramones, and at which point the audience went bananas. but that was a highly memorable night to me. Afterwards, we were taken by the promoter to La Coupole, and we had dinner. The Ramones at one end of the table, the Talking Heads at the other end, and the road crew in between. It was just amazing. And so, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Which was the show? I can't remember if it was that one or where everyone was jumping so much that the floor, and then everyone was going down and coming back up. So I loved that.
We're talking about the zenith of punk music at that time, and the Sex Pistols were very active. They just released a record, and our opening, we were in Brussels, Belgium. That was our second tour of Europe, and the opening act was, so we were headlining at this point, and the opening act was XTC, who were fantastic. And they opened. We did a whole tour of Europe with XTC, and we only had one album out, and they had just released their first album, and we played this place. It was a deconsecrated chapel next to a larger church, and it had been deconsecrated and turned into a youth center. And somehow they started promoting punk shows. Not that we or
Right.
FTC would be punk, but people thought we were punk. So XTC did their set. It was great. Everybody loved them. And then we got on stage, and the intensity kicked up a few notches, and we noticed as we were performing, playing away, oh wow, there's like a dimple in the audience there. Now this is a very old building. I'd say probably at least 500 years old. So, maybe only 400 years old, but it was old.
Give or take.
Oldish.
The Vieux Saint Jacques, the old Saint Job, and we were playing away, and we noticed, oh, there's a dimple in the audience there. What's going on? And this was when pogoing was the dance to do. And people were pogoing and pogoing and pogoing till some of them went right through the old wooden floor down into the basement. And then but somehow nobody got hurt, thank goodness. And they would come up through the basement stairs to the back of the hall and start pushing their way forward again. At which point other people would go into the hole again. It was like a conveyor belt of people falling through the hole in the floor, which is right in the center in front of the center of the stage. So hilarious. And my uncle was there that night. My uncle was a military Air Force general who was the chief of staff of NATO in Mons, Belgium. And he came to the show. He had loved music very much, and he was all excited. And he was like, he's from Kentucky. He was like, Chris, I can't believe those kids. But he enjoyed the show. That was a good one. That was a really good one.
One of the things you do throughout the book that I loved is you put the set list that you played on certain nights at certain gigs. How important is that to you as a musician, is having the right set list? How long do you work on crafting that? Is that something really important to you?
Well, we would often keep this, unlike the jam bands of today that always like, oh, let's put the songs in a hat and pull one out and see which one we're going to play.
Right.
We were more into the stage craft, like crafting a show so that it has begins with a bang, and then has dynamics, so it goes up and down, and finally ends with an even bigger bang than it began with. So we would, if we had a set that was working well, we would stick with it. We would just keep doing that same set until we either had a new song to add to it, or something happened and we thought, maybe the transition between pulled up and don't worry about the government, maybe we should change the two around. So it was flexible, but if it was working well, we just stuck with it.
What are you up to musically now? Is Tom Tom Club coming back? Because I feel like as a civilization, if we ever needed Tom Tom Club, it is now.
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. I couldn't agree with you more. But it's kind of hard to do a tour right now.
It's true.
This is true.
It's in fact that poor dim-witted country star who did a show the other night, Chase Rice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he was thinking, but boy, what a lot of bad publicity he's got. Anyway, Tina and I have been thinking about what to do musically. She's working on a book now, so that's going to take a while. But we've done a few electronic songs. I mean, just she and me, she and I, she and me. Anyway,
either one. I don't know. We're not worried about the grammar today.
We've been doing some electronic things and sort of inspired by Kraftwerk, but it doesn't sound anything like Kraftwerk. But we're not as good as they are. but we've been thinking about doing something in that direction because it's something that the two of us could do together. And it would be something that was different than what we've done before, but also like if we were to play live somewhere, say, it would only be 2 airplane tickets instead of 10. And, 1 hotel room instead of 6. We love our band, the Tom Tom Club, and they're a great band. And maybe what I'm telling you now is not going to happen at all. Maybe we'll get together with the other members of Tom Tom Club and do something in the future. But everything's up in the air at this time.
Yeah.
Are you the podcast that is speaking to Susie Quattro?
Yes, we talked to Susie. Her episode is up right now. It was another we've had an amazing week between the two of you. So thank you.
She was one of the reasons that I bought the Susie Quattro album. And I said, look, Tina, look at this. She even kind of looks like you. Look at that was back in 1973 or something. And she had all those sort of Mike Chapman produced hits. And we've met Susie a couple times because our sound man was also her sound man. Before he worked with us, he liked her a lot. And I'm glad she's sort of having a little recharge.
Yeah, she definitely seemed to be, and she mentioned you both specifically that how much she appreciated what you contributed to the documentary and what Debbie Harry contributed, and I think she was so touched by it too, which was so wonderful. So she was a great conversation too. Like I said, you both have given us an amazing week, and I didn't play bass, but I always wanted to play bass because of Susie and Tina, because the bass is the coolest. I also kind of wanted to date John Taylor, all of those things, but it was really amazing. And I do have one just random question for you. So Tina relinquished her Talking Head shirt to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't know that I could relinquish my first piece of memorabilia that really helped me launch. Do you still have yours at least?
I don't know what happened to it. I certainly couldn't get into it now, but
well, details.
Hers was black and mine was red. They both had silver letters on them. In those days they would just iron them on.
Yes.
But that's a cool T-shirt.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm like, I know it's for the greater good of all of us and us to be able to experience and see it. But I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I'd be that selfless. I think I'd keep it. It would be on my own wall.
It could be. I'm not sure if she gave it to the Hall of Fame or if it's on loan.
Okay. That makes more sense.
It might be on loan.
I guess really there's just one more question before we leave you alone. What are you going to do when you get out of jail?
I'm going to have some fun, baby.
Chris's book, Remain in Love, Talking Heads, Tom Tom Club, Tina, is available starting tomorrow wherever you get your books. You can also follow Chris on Twitter, where he is at Chris Frantz, TTC.
Be sure to follow Why the Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and check out our YouTube channel for some additional great Why content. If you're so inclined, please leave us a review and let us know how we're doing.
Today's show was produced by myself and Heidi Hedquist. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our graphic designer is Samantha Mustonen. Our intern is Randy Jeanette. The theme song was performed by the Electrosyntho-Magnetic Polyphonic Orchestra. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?